The Oregon Ballet Theater's Nutcracker Summer Sale is going on now through July 31st. You can twirl into the holidays with the best seats and best prices of the season by securing your tickets now at obt.org. This is one of their most special programs of the year, 18 performances, all with live orchestra. So get your summer sale tickets now while you can to George Balanchine's The Nutcracker, presented by Fred Meyer at obt.org. Today on CityCast Portland, we're talking about the Guinness World Record our city just broke, an expert sounding the alarm that Portland is at risk of an LA-sized wildfire, and we're also looking at layoffs at Oregon's largest employer. I'm your host, Claudia Meza. Joining me are the founder of Stumptown Savings, your friendly neighborhood grocery economy newsletter, Bryan Vance, and Oregonian technology and economy reporter, Mike Rogoway. Hello, guys. How's it going?
Hey, y'all. I'm good.
Nice. I hear you're both BFFs now, hanging out
Yes,
outside our tapings
we
and
have
such.
hung out. Yeah.
After the last one, we had a great coffee. We should have taped that one, Brian.
Yeah, we should have. There was some cool stuff there.
Well, I usually kick things off with an opening question, and today's is based on the fantastic news that Portland is now a Guinness World Record holder for largest electric bicycle ride. This past Sunday, PBOT brought over 1,000 people together to the South Waterfront to complete this ride. Even sweeter than breaking this record, we took the crown from Seattle, who had previously gathered, 405 e-bikes. We more than doubled it. Let's go, Portland. The event also served as a 10-year anniversary celebration of Biketown, Portland's bike share service sponsored by Nike and run by PBOT. A lot of people don't know this, but it is a city-led service. So hopefully you hate those bikes a little less now.
Treat them with respect.
I know, because I think people are just like, oh, I hate Nike, you know?
Right.
And it's like, it's our city. Nike's just paint, like, come on now.
They're just sponsoring it, basically.
Come on. Nike also gave away free tickets to the Portland Pride Fest to the participants, assuming that most e-bike riders were probably gay. I'm assuming. So, anyhow, my opening question is, what world record should Portland attempt next?
All right, so I'll go first. I was playing around with this, and I had the idea that perhaps we should try for the world's largest city council.
I love this. 12 isn't enough. What number are you thinking, Mike?
I mean, we went from 5 to 12, and you see how it is. I mean, everybody, all 12 of them want to have their say on every topic. So it goes, it's endless copy for newspapers. So I thought, well, how big should it be? And I'm like, well, I don't know. So I did look around, and I even like Brisbane, Australia, they have 26 people on their city council.
Oh, my God.
Vienna has 100. Tokyo has 127, and Paris has 163. So, I mean, unless we put like everybody on the city council, that probably we're not breaking. If everybody on the city was on the council, then
well, you can't see Brian and I's face, but we are frozen in a gasp.
I'm just like, what? 160? I know Paris is big. I know Tokyo is massive.
But
how do you get anything done?
Well, maybe they're just better at it. I don't know. Maybe one of them shuts up once in their life. Mike, what are you proposing? How many council members then?
I thought, before I looked up these numbers, I thought if we just doubled it, I mean, what do we have? 4 districts?
Let's just keep it safe.
I thought maybe if we had 8 districts or something like that, that maybe we'd get there. 3 people in each district, maybe 24, maybe that would be a record. I think San Francisco has like 17 supervisors. Of course, they had the city and county are combined there, so they're doing double duty.
Mike, this is a world record. This isn't a U.S. record.
I think we've got to go for 164. Take it, Paris.
Yeah, show those Parisians who's boss.
Brian, what about you? After hearing this amazing idea from Mike.
I did not think this through nearly as in depth as Mike did. I was just thinking of like recent world records that we broke. So we obviously broke the e-bike record. I believe it was last year that shirts and pants broke the record for the world's largest pair of jeans. I don't know, like maybe the world's largest pair of stilts. I love, street fair season. There's always people walking around in stilts. Or here's a better idea. Every person at the Montevilla Street Fair has to wear stilts. And we set the record for the most people on stilts.
So many head injuries.
Area.
So many head injuries.
I think this is the record we should go for.
I think we're going to break the record of the most head injuries occurring at a live event.
Most concussions in a single 30
single
minute
minute. Yeah.
Brian, that would be
That's what we're
very
gonna do.
Portland, the stilt record. But again, I mean, it's just, we're a clumsy city.
Oh, yeah.
We'd be
Also, I'm
bad.
terrified of heights, and you're never getting me on stilts. So I'm just going to watch this one.
Wait, who has the record for the largest tall bike? I feel like it should be us.
Yeah, that one we
Right?
could definitely beat.
That one to me, I'm
we
like,
could
come on,
definitely
that
beat.
one's easy. That's like easy pickings
Yeah.
right there. Like,
World's tallest e-bike. How about that?
ooh, world's tallest
New
e-bike.
category.
I love it. You know what's crazy? My nephew just yesterday was like, I want an e-bike. This boy cannot ride a bike. And he wanted an e-bike. And we were explaining to him, like, if you want an e-bike, you're going to have to learn how to ride a bike. And he's like, it'll be easier. And I'm like, why do people think that's something? It's like when people learn how to play guitar and they're just like, oh, and it's
Electric.
usually with an acoustic. They're like, but if I had an electric, I'd be so much better. And it's like, no, you just would suck louder. Like, what is it with people when they think like, give them the faster, louder thing? And they're like, no, but I would be awesome at this. And it's like, no, sweetie.
Everything's better with electricity, right? Everything.
Yeah, whatever.
That's what it comes down to.
Too young to choose his sexuality anyhow. So let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, Bryan is going to scare the hell out of all of us. Got leftover paint, stain, or varnish taking up space in your basement or garage? You're not alone. Many of us finish a project and end up with half-used cans we're just not sure what to do with. Don't let them sit there collecting dust, taking up space. Recycle them with Paint Care. Whether it's cans from a recent renovation or years of storage, Paint Care helps ensure your paint is managed responsibly and kept out of landfills. Drop off your cans for free at one of more than 175 conveniently located drop-off sites across Oregon. To find a drop-off site near you, visit paintcare.org. That's paintcare.org. Okay, Bryan, go ahead. Ruin our morning.
Yeah, so you know how we're all waiting for that mega quake that's supposed to hit at some point? Well, now we have a new thing that we need to worry about. An LA-style wildfire in Portland. Could you imagine just how terrifying that would be? So this comes from some reporting from Griffin Uribe Brown at the Oregonian, doing some reporting on a study by a PSU professor named Robert McCullough. He looked into how would a fire like that, how devastating would it be in Portland? Turns out it would be terrible. It could cause over $6 billion worth of damage if it just hit like Southeast Portland in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a staggering number. It's nice to know that I guess all those skyrocketing home prices add up to something large like $6 billion.
Oh, look at Bryan looking at the friggin' silver streak here. It's like we may
there's
not
a
have
plus there. Our land is more valuable.
we may not have sidewalks, but hey, look at us. Look at us go.
But what it really comes down to is if you think about Portland, we may not be as hilly as like say Seattle or certain parts of LA, but we do have a lot of these like hilly, heavily forested areas, not just on the west side. So not just Forest Park. Like the particular area that McCullough was focusing on was Oaks Bottom in Selwood. And it's sort of this like steep cliff. There's a wetland down there, a lot of dry grass in the summer, a lot of dry trees. There's power lines going overhead. These are all like perfect conditions for wildfires that are really hard to fight. I mean, this is sort of what happened in LA last year was a fire sparked in a hilly area that's really difficult to get to. By the time people were able to get there, the winds had picked up and spread it. Also, the Willamette River is right there, so you do get a wind effect. It's important to note that McCullough still says this is like a black swan event. I love that turn of phrase that he kept using. Like, it's not likely that it's going to happen anytime soon, but the conditions are there. And it was really interesting to see that, like, we don't really have a plan for this. One of the things that I guess I didn't think about this, but like when you think of wildfires happening in the forest, they tend to happen in like national forests or BLM land or something like that. There's a handful of organizations involved. A wildfire happening in an urban area where, a single neighborhood might have 10,000 housing units all owned by different people. Like you suddenly have all these different property owners, these different government agencies, all these different people involved, and they're not all coordinating. And so there isn't a unified plan for how would we prevent this from happening? How would we respond in case it happened? And like, what could we do to mitigate the the chances of it. It's just kind of a terrifying, eye-opening look at like how unprepared we are for yet another natural disaster in Portland.
Yeah, Bryan, what you say is just what I took away from that article. Is it's quintessentially Portland. I mean, it's like our fragmented city government, and we haven't done the long-term planning to say, hey, this is something we could potentially be victim of, and what could we do to minimize it? It's not likely, as you say, but it'd be some trouble if it happens.
I'm sure if we had just 100 more city councilors, though, we could figure this out. I know Portland Fire and Rescue have forest fire drills at Forest Park to make sure they keep up with like lane maintenance and just keeping maps all updated, like who's living where, all that stuff. But that's like a very specific area. And what I'm thinking is that you can't have like a city-wide plan, like a one-size-fits-all. You have to go from district to district because our land survey, like the way we're laid out, is so different. Yeah. Like a St. John's wildfire precaution would be so different from, like, let's say Woodstock. Anyone closer to Gresham, there's higher winds out there. I don't understand how that works. I don't know if it's the Columbia or what, but there's just like more windstorms. It's true, like over by Gresham.
Yeah. I'm out here in East Portland. I definitely experience it.
Yeah. And so it's like every plan would have to be different. So like that's a giant undertaking. But it's good to know. I mean, for those who are just like, oh, great, the big one and now a fireball. There are certain plans in place. Like
there are. It's not that they're not doing anything. And there are, I did find it a little bit shocking at how few of these there are, but there are like cameras that PGE has. They're AI powered and they're designed to sort of spot sparks, spot the beginnings of a fire so that they can immediately dispatch resources out there to put it out. Like you said, Claudia, the fire department practices all kinds of scenarios. They specifically practice and maintain a lot of stuff. They clear out brush and whatnot in Forest Park. But the challenge here is there's just not enough happening to help prepare for this worst case scenario. And I do want to clarify, this is a worst case scenario. It's not that it's likely, though every single year that it gets hotter, it becomes more likely. Every single year that our housing gets denser, it becomes potentially more devastating. It's just a matter of like, are we even aware that this is an issue? And what are we doing to sort of beef up our potential defense mechanisms? Like how can we better prepare for this?
You know what? I feel like we wait a lot as citizens for our city to do something. And I feel like this is a citizen-led project. You know how many nerds we have in Portland?
So many.
Who love like board games, who love strategy. Like, I'm just like, someone should create a board game where we figure this out. Like if it's a board game, Portland will win. If we like if we made any like even homelessness, any of our crises, create it into a board game, and trust me, by the end of that week, some nerd is going to be like, I cracked the code.
I solved it. This is the way.
Yeah, just full of like energy drink and solutions. Yeah, that's what I foresee.
I think maybe we should get a city council commission looking into building a board game to solve wildfire risk, urban wildfire risk.
I think so. All right. Well, Bryan, thank you for looking into that. Very scary. Let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, Mike has a check-in on the state of Oregon's semiconductor industry. Okay, Mike, I know you were looking at a few things, layoffs, where we are in the world with our semiconductor industry. Just take it away. Just let us know. I mean, honestly, if somebody were to ask me about our semiconductor industry, I'd be like, we have one? Oh, yeah, huh? So
I guess that's what Intel does.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let me start for making a case why it's not boring, or at least why it shouldn't be. I mean, so this is our big ticket industry. This is our dollar industry. This is what Oregon does. We do $14 billion a year in exports in semiconductors. And in the past, Oregon industry is like forestry. You look around and you see there's trees everywhere. And you're like, okay, that's what we do. All of this work is done, behind closed doors, but it is some of the most advanced electronics work in the world. And it is done here. And it's just done in these clean rooms by people in bunny suits. So we never see it. But it matters both to the world around us, the electronics that we all depend on, that we're using right now for this conversation, and especially for Oregon's economy. And the problem we have is that historically, Oregon's economic fortunes have, over the last 30 years or so, we'll say, have risen and fallen with the semiconductor industry. When chip stocks are up, Oregon employment is up, the people got money to spend. It's a good thing for the economy. Right now, we have this weird divergence where semiconductor stocks are up 200, 300% over the last year. They're through the roof. Intel stock has gone from $22 a share a year ago to about $100 now. So you think, oh, great, that's great, right? But it hasn't played out that way for us this time. There's been a divergence between employment and stock prices. And there's a couple reasons for that. But one is that Oregon chips, we're not making what the world wants. Everyone wants AI right now. And our chips tend to be more conventional than that. Neither Intel nor the other semiconductor manufacturers here, companies like onsemi and Microchip, they weren't making products specifically for AI. The good news is that there's sort of been a spillover effect. The rising tide is floating all boats now. And so people want Intel chips to perform some tasks for AI systems now. And so right now, jobs haven't caught up, at least in part because while that demand is emerging, it hasn't caught up totally yet. But Oregon has some more fundamental issues. Our semiconductor employment, it's at a 30-year low right now. Intel's eliminated 6,000 to 7,000 Oregon jobs over the past couple of years. And the state commissioned a study this summer to say, okay, where are we going with our semiconductor industry? And they said essentially that we risk becoming irrelevant globally. And Oregon used to be the global center of advanced semiconductors, but we just haven't refreshed it. We've been relying on Intel. Intel ran into some hard times, and there weren't other new things coming around it. And this is something I think a lot about. I mean, Oregon has a lot of assets, but it doesn't create a lot that's new. We haven't grown a new large employer in generations here. We're really reliant on jobs that companies from out of state bring here, companies like Intel. And companies that we used to have that were big, like Tektronix or Electroscientific Industries, they get to be 60 or 70 years old. They get sold. They're less a part of the ecosystem. And so that's kind of the headwind we're running into. There's some good news in the future and some bad news. I'll start with the bad news first. And that's that Intel is cutting more jobs. Last week, Intel notified its data center group that it's going to be laying off more people there. It's not that the data center group isn't growing. It is. It's up like 22% in the past year. But that it wants to be more efficient. As it grows, it wants to do it by spending less money. And so more layoffs and fewer jobs. And that's not great for our economy. Now, the good news is that the federal government, which doesn't look too kindly on Oregon for a lot of things right now. The National Science Foundation just this past week awarded Oregon a $15 million grant. It can go up to $160 million to start developing new resources for the semiconductor industry, new pathways for entrepreneurs, new talent, K through 12, education, universities, advanced research, to start pushing people into the industry, to start providing the kinds of jobs that the industry wants. So that's the upside, is that the feds still believe in us, kind of, and so there may be some opportunities. But it's been a hard road for us for the past few years.
Is it that they believe in us, or that they're just like, financially speaking, it's easier to fund these bozos than start fresh somewhere else?
Start fresh in Arizona.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, they awarded a bunch of grants, and so a lot of other states got them too. I think the fact that Oregon got them, you may recall it during the last days of the Biden administration. The Biden administration was sort of having an open call for allotting more semiconductor funding, and Oregon mostly got passed over with that. It ended up not mattering very much. The Trump administration came in and scrapped everything the Biden administration was doing. But it did seem to point that things were going away from us. Big new factories were being built elsewhere, but not here. Yeah. In the old days, you build a large factory on a few dozen acres or maybe a few hundred. Now table stakes is 1,000 acres, and Oregon doesn't have that. We don't have 1,000 acres sitting around ready for somebody to build a semiconductor industry anywhere where the rest of the industry is. There are places in eastern Oregon and farther south in the Willamette Valley, but we don't have it close to Portland where the workers are. So, the feds showed a degree of enthusiasm for us, I think, with this. And we do have some opportunities, but it suggests we've got some headwinds in front of us in the years ahead.
I do like the idea that Oregon creates these like artisan, old-fashioned there's something so on brand about that. It's like,
Antique
Oregon, we get the antique semiconductors from them. All of our semiconductor scientists have like those like curly mustaches and like leather aprons for some reason. We're just like, spending twice as long.
In the digital economy, we're very big on what they call analog chips. And these perform power management. They're exactly what you're talking about. They're old fashioned. Yeah. They're not the cutting edge. Intel is cutting edge. But, microchip, analog devices. The good news is that the more devices there are, the more of these older analog chips people want. People used to think, a semiconductor factory, a fab, maybe the last 10 years. Turns out they'll go on indefinitely.
Yeah, we need them for everything.
Because there's still a demand for these older chips to perform basic things like making sure the power goes where it's supposed to.
I don't know. It's interesting to me, though, Mike, because, and one of your stories actually talked about this a little bit, was like that report that the state commission did. It alluded to like a slightly hostile tax system, but didn't specify. It actually seems like we have a very favorable tax system for a lot of these businesses because we don't charge sales tax. And these are incredibly expensive businesses to buy equipment for, to buy the land, the buildings, everything. We also don't really charge them that much in corporate taxes, and they tend to get really sweetheart deals in property tax breaks. Washington County cuts huge deals for Intel, it seems like every few years. And so I just wonder, why do you think it is that more businesses aren't forming here, or at the very least investing here? Because it does seem like, despite what some people are saying, we actually have a very favorable tax environment for these types of initiatives.
Yeah, Bryan, that's an excellent point. You're exactly right about that our tax code is more or less written for the semiconductor industry. If you say Oregon has high business taxes, well, maybe for certain kinds of businesses. Definitely not for semiconductors. As you say, no sales tax, forgive most business income taxes. And then, as you say, Washington County and Hillsborough exempt Intel from hundreds of millions of dollars a year in property taxes. So yeah, we're a great deal for them. So why aren't we doing better? I think part of it is perception. Part of it is that we don't have a great research university environment. No shade to Oregon State, Portland State, OHSU. But when you're looking for the most advanced semiconductor research in the world, in the universities, it hasn't been Oregon. It's not to say that we don't have anything, but, we're not Cal, Stanford, Georgia Tech, MIT, Caltech. We just don't have that here. So we've got to bring people in from elsewhere to make it happen. I think there was a time it was easier to do that. And then part of it is that, in the years after World War II, if you were starting up a capital-intensive manufacturing business, the United States was a reasonable place to do it. Oregon was a reasonable place to do it. But now a lot of manufacturing is done in other countries, and it is just so expensive to start a new business in the hardware industry.
Yeah.
There are, with Intel's disarray over the last few years, some very prominent people walked out the door with their very powerful brains, and they started coming up with new ideas. And so, just one company, just off the top of my head, Ahead Computing out in Beaverton, doing some really interesting things with microprocessor design on a different standard than the one Intel uses. People are very excited about the work they're doing. Now, they don't have a factory. They will be hiring somebody else to make it. But, the brain power, they're putting the brain power to work. And companies like that are an opportunity for Oregon going forward.
Oh, interesting. It seems like there's a lot of incentives for our state government to be thinking more creatively on how to incentivize people moving in, doing this kind of thing. And you just hit it, like the idea of creating more educational paths towards this industry, I think is a really good idea. And also maybe even like sponsoring like a department that really focuses on this on the higher education level would also be probably a boon to this industry.
To varying degrees over the years, Intel, for example, has been very involved in promoting our higher education system. A very high percentage of the people, the 16,000 people Intel has in Hillsborough, have degrees from Portland State. So there is some real potential symbiosis there. It just, we probably need to take another step up.
Right. We need to refresh it, update us for the 2020s and beyond.
Yeah, we have this company. It's not semiconductors, but we have this company in Salem, Agility Robotics. They spun out of Portland State. They spun out of Oregon State. And they make a humanoid robot. It can carry things and walk around and work in warehouses. Well, they just said, oh, we're expanding in Fremont, California. And they've been saying for a long time, if Oregon doesn't develop its own tech ecosystem, we're going to be expanding elsewhere. And here we are.
That's such a bummer.
What's happening.
Yeah. Well, again, if this were a board game, we could probably figure this out as a team.
As you say, we got lots of nerds. Let's all get to work.
That's
the thing. I'm like, it's not like we don't have enough smart people in Portland. Like, get one of them in on a very niche thing that nobody really cares about. There's so much brain power that goes to it,
Right.
Well, Mike, thank you for that. I'd love to have you back on, and maybe we could talk more about why Oregon, just in general, hasn't been so conducive to growing businesses here in our state.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Let's have that conversation. Yeah. But appreciate you both. I'm glad that you guys took time from your busy friendship to check in with us.
It was my pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for having me. It's always fun.
That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, share it with a friend, rate it. You know what? Just leave us a good review. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Portland neighbor. You just visit membership.citycast.fm for all of the details. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's or at the
Montevilla Street Fair.
Yeah.
The stilts.
Getting a concussion.
Maybe the ER. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see you at the ER. Closest to Montevilla. How about that? We'll see you there.